Hello and welcome. In a time of extreme global uncertainty, when governments claimed to act in the name of public health but in fact did the polar opposite, new investigations expose actions amounting to crimes against humanity. This is the story of how one nation's pandemic response descended into authoritarianism under the disingenuous guise of safety, and left in its wake a trail of biological harm, psychological devastation resulting from criminal malfeasance of public office. From the Independent Circle Research Group operating from the regulatory sanctuary of Dubai's Free Zone to avoid fascist Australia's state censorship, comes a deeply disturbing expose authored by Australian researcher Dr. Greg Thom. This report is titled State-Sponsored Crimes Against Humanity, Australia's Role in mRNA Vaccine Harms and Illegal Curfews. Its conclusions are disturbingly grave and confirm everything this channel reported about the weaponised COVID psyop. It asserts that the Australian state engaged in systematic harm against its citizens, what the report calls people terrorism, through the deployment of mRNA vaccines and the enforcement of unscientific, coercive curfews. At the core of the report are findings from internationally renowned pathologist Dr. Fabio Zoffi of Italy. In a series of post-mortem examinations conducted near Venice, Dr. Zoffi discovered that the recipients of the COVID-19 mRNA vaccine exhibited total destruction of the pineal gland, a tiny but vital organ responsible for regulating sleep, hormone production, and emotional stability. It's also recognized as our spiritual antenna to the divine. Speaking at a Public Health Alliance roundtable, Dr. Zoffi stated the spike protein is also very dangerous for the endocrine system. That's why these people have these changes in personality, unquote. This psychological damage, Zoffi suggests, is not incidental, but a direct consequence of the spike proteins introduced by the mRNA platform. His organisation, Zero Spike, has further documented these neurological impairments, suggesting a link between vaccination and emergent behavioural disorders. Supporting these claims, a major peer-reviewed study from South Korea published in Nature examined over 2 million residents in Seoul. Led by Professor Hong Jin Kim of Inji University, the study identified significant increases in psychiatric disorders among those vaccinated with mRNA products. The data were unambiguous, a 68% rise in cases of clinical depression, a 44% increase in anxiety disorders, a staggering 93% surge in reported sleep disturbances. Participants described sensations of inner chaos, paralysing fear, and loss of emotional equilibrium. The researchers concluded that these manifestations were not due to the pandemic itself, but directly tied to the vaccine's biological effects. Despite these warnings, the Australian government, through its rogue TGA, the Therapeutic Goods Administration, aggressively endorsed and enforced vaccine uptake. Citizens were subjected to workplace mandates, social exclusion, and threats of financial penalties. According to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, such coercion, resulting in grievous bodily and psychological harm, constitutes a crime against humanity. While the nation grappled with these biological concerns, another form of state control emerged: illegal curfews and lockdowns. A bombshell investigation published by the Herald Sun in April 2025 exposed that Victoria's sweeping curfews had no scientific or medical justification whatsoever. The career criminal at the heart of this controversy, the then State Premier Daniel Andrews, enforced restrictions that devastated local economies and traumatised communities. According to leaked internal documents cited by the Herald Sun, Andrews' measures were arbitrary, unsupported by epidemiological data, and fuelled by political, not public health motivations. A quote from the Herald Sun stated Australia's criminal-funded Daniel Andrews had absolutely no scientific basis for the curfews he illegally imposed on Victorians. The impact was unsurprisingly profound. Small businesses were deliberately sabotaged under the weight of prolonged closures, with the Australian Bureau of Statistics reporting a 30% increase in insolvencies between 2020 and 2022. Mental health organisations such as Beyond Blue recorded a 40% spike in emergency calls during curfew periods. Communities fractured, trust in institutions eroded, and a new undercurrent of fear took root in Australian civic life. These developments, the report argues, are not merely administrative failures. They constitute calculated acts of state violence against a civilian population, what Dr. Tom refers to as people terrorism. Under international human rights frameworks, the allegations raised in this report carry severe implications. Article 7 of the Rome Statute defines inhumane acts that cause serious injury to mental or physical health as crimes against humanity. Articles 3 and 5 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights protect the right to life, liberty, and freedom from cruel or inhumane treatment. Domestically, the Victorian Charter of Human Rights and the Australian Constitution restrict coercive medical practices and unlawful restrictions on movement. By these standards, Dr. Tom's report argues that state officials, including Daniel Andrews and affiliated bureaucrats, must be held accountable. The report concludes with a demand for justice. Criminal charges under both international and domestic law apply. Financial penalties totaling $10 million per perpetrator, revocation of all state benefits, a custodial sentence of no less than 15 years, a $5 billion reparation fund to support victims, funded through asset seizures. An independent international inquiry with findings made publicly accessible and immune to censorship. Australia, once praised for its democratic ideals, now stands accused of the gravest imaginable violations and multiple crimes against humanity. As the world reckons with the legacy of the COVID-19 scandemic, this report, authored from exile to circumvent retaliatory lawfare, censorship and suppression, urges not only reflection, but decisive action for the victims, for the truth, and for the future. Thank you.